think in the beginning, people kind of just looked at girls like, oh, she wants to DJ. She's not really about that life. She wants to be popular. Believe it or not, I tend to be really shy.
Yeah, I know. Yep, you do.
It was really, really hard to get out of my own head.
What keeps you motivated and moving forward in that sense?
That's a good question. I'm so happy you asked that because in this pandemic, it's been so hard. I want to be, this is so hard, Brooke. You put me on the spot. I want to do so many things.
Get it together, man.
I haven't done one of these in a minute.
I'm just going to interview you because I find you so fascinating and amazeballs. So.
Oh, you're sweet, Brooke.
You gotta tell me a little bit more about your background because I know all about you, but I feel like people, they see you on social media, but they don't really know who you are, like how you got into DJing or anything like that. So what's the story?
So we're live.
Yeah, we're live. We're recording. What's up?
The story is, it's a pretty basic story. I've loved music my entire life. Since I can remember, music has been like my go-to. And I remember just always being at, family parties, quinceañeras, weddings, bautizos, and always being super fascinated by the DJ. Seeing the way his music selection, seeing how people were so happy with what he was playing. To me, that just was always so freaking cool. And then when I discovered DJ AM.
Okay. Yes.
DJ AM, he did a lot of like mashups and like genre blending. And that's when I realized like, okay, I gotta start really putting my focus into doing that. And just little by little, I bought equipment. I grew up, having a lot of friends that were kind of like in, the party scene, the dance scene, the performing, artist scene. So when I finally decided to, okay, let's just mess around with DJing, see what happens, do it for fun, do it as a hobby, and if it goes anywhere, cool. When I finally decided to take that step, I kind of already knew a few people that were able to give me an opportunity, as an opener.
Yeah. So what would you consider your big break to be then, or have you not had it yet?
My big break? I feel like we always kind of have big breaks, I think one of my biggest breaks was definitely landing a DJ gig on Real 92.3.
Yeah.
Los Angeles. And the way that happened was pretty crazy. It was like right time, right place. You can call it destiny. I like to call it destiny, but I was DJing at a club. Shout out to DB Lounge in Downey.
Okay. I
was DJing there one night. I was a guest DJ. And when I got to the gig, I saw that there were some people from the radio station, from Real 92.3 there. Real 92.3 had just launched in LA. Day was there.
Okay.
His neighborhood, DJ Ayo. And when I saw them there, I thought, okay, cool. Like, I didn't know that they were going to be there, but I was down with it. They brought lots of excitement. Ayo and Louis were on the stage. They were hyping up the crowd. I had met Ida maybe 3 years prior, and I hadn't seen her since. I met her, and that was it. She was there that night. And so it just so happened that she worked with Real 92.3. She came over to me. She's like, I want you to meet my boss. Like, he's going to love you. And yeah,
that's awesome.
But I didn't know who her boss was, to be honest. I didn't even really know she worked at the radio station.
Oh,
so
wow. Okay.
When you meet my boss, I'm like, cool, bring him over. Not knowing that her boss is Doc Winter. And so he's there at the gig that night. We meet briefly. That's that. I don't really think anything of it because in my DJ career, like I've met a lot of people, in radio, in the industry, and it just kind of was what it was. We just met and but maybe 3 days later, I get a text message from Ayo, DJ Ayo, and he's like, yo, can you come in?
It's very Ayo, yo. Then, yep.
Wednesday. And that was pretty much it. Like I didn't really believe it until I actually signed my contract.
Yeah.
so many people promise you things. It wasn't the first time, you know, that I met somebody that said, I can do this for you, or I can help you get here, or I can offer you this position.
Yeah.
You know, so I didn't really think much of it. I had my first meeting, had my second meeting, had my third meeting, and I'm like, okay, this probably isn't going to happen. Like, it's been months at this point. And no, one day I got the random text from Doc. You know how that goes.
I do.
Random text from Doc Winters, like months later. At that point, I'm like, they forgot about me, you know. And no, he's like, yo, can you start mixing live?
Yeah, that's amazing. And things take forever in radio, which I think a lot of people don't understand either. If you're like going to be offered a job at some point, it literally takes months. It's so irritating. And I hate it so much. But that's, I mean, I've heard that story before, and I love that story because they really do. I mean, Doc and AO really do give people a lot of opportunities and just new situations that usually weren't possible beforehand. They take a lot of chances, which is nice. And I'm glad they took one on you because that's where we met.
Yes, we did. I remember I actually met you the day that I went in. The first day, was it my first? It was, no, after my 3 meetings that I had and like phone calls.
Yeah.
And I got the text message to come in and have AO show me around and give me a quick little training. When I was walking to the DJ booth, I ran into you.
I was sitting on the couch.
Yeah, you were sitting on that couch, and you were so sweet though. Like, that's the one thing I'll always say about you. From the beginning, from day one, you were super sweet. I think at one point you walked over and you introduced yourself.
Probably.
And that was it.
Yeah, because you're just so small. I wanted to be your friend. I thought you were so cool. So
yeah, and you know what? Everybody was really cool. Like, I remember I met Nina Chantel the same day. She was awesome. And yeah, it's just been such a great opportunity. So to answer your question, I think that was definitely one of my big breaks. Yeah.
Right. But what was it like coming up as a DJ in LA? Because I feel like the DJ experience, depending on the city, is really different. And of course, you're also a female DJ, because even you said, you know, like whenever you would look at DJs, it was usually a him or something like that, you know? So what made you think, well, I'm going to do this as well? Was it more difficult for you coming up? Was it a struggle? Was there a lot of opposition? Was there a lot of, you know, competitiveness in that?
I think it's been 50-50. You know, I think in the beginning, people kind of just looked at girls like, oh, she wants to DJ. Like, she's not really about that life. You know, she wants to be popular. She thinks, you know, it's fun and games, but she's not really putting in the work. I feel like that's what a lot of people thought of as girl DJs in the beginning, because we didn't really start popping off up until about like maybe 15 years ago.
Right.
I mean, before then it was maybe Spinderella and a few other girls that were, you know, popping in the DJ world, but it wasn't about 15 years ago. And I want to say I kind of came in around that time, a little bit later. But I mean, I think that I came up with the girls that are still around. Like, we put in the work, you know, we put in the lugging the equipment up a 2-story building, you know, taking multiple gigs for not that much money, you know, just putting in the work. Like, it wasn't always rainbows and butterflies and like glitz and glamour. Like, we really put in the work. And I think in the beginning, you didn't really see a lot of it. So I think a lot of people were really thrown off by it and didn't really expect much, you know, but we stood with it and we kept it going. And I think, you know, being a girl also helped in a way where like, we're fun to look at, you know. I mean, that's always a plus.
Hell yeah.
And I think that also helped, but there was always, you know, a little bit of both, a little bit of positive, a little bit of negative. It's just kind of say, you know what, I don't care about that. I don't care about that. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to pursue. I'm going to go with it. And if you're cool with it, cool.
So what is the biggest difference, you would say, DJing for radio, which I know you've obviously done for years now, and then DJing for a club? You're very into both worlds. What's the biggest difference, like, other than you can only play a certain amount of songs on radio and then you can play whatever you want in the club? So what, besides that, what's the biggest difference?
I mean, the biggest difference obviously is going to be people. Like, you're DJing for a crowd versus on radio, you're DJing in a room by yourself.
Right.
You know, trying to fill it out. But they both give me an adrenaline rush. Like, when I DJ in front of a live audience, I get that rush. When I'm on the radio, I also get that rush. So, I mean, yeah, I would say just the live audience is really the difference.
Yeah, the audience, and I've been, obviously, since I've been on the radio and everything, I know what you're talking about, because it's kind of just the thought of how many people are listening into you. And that's
Right.
where that rush comes from, because you can't see anyone, but you might be on like Instagram Live, or you might be doing something on
Right.
social media, but it's the thought of all these people in their cars, you know, tuning into you and hopefully relaxing after a long day or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, that's the best feeling for me.
But one thing that's happened, like in this pandemic, you know, we've had to like, you know, we've had to figure things out. We've had to work remote.
Mhm.
We've had to pre-record a few shifts here and there.
Right.
And I remember the pandemic hit what, like in
March.
mid-March.
Yeah.
And I hadn't really been out into the streets because we were on a major lockdown, right?
Yeah.
So I remember in May I got into my car and I was driving somewhere, and it just so happened to hear, like a part of, you know, the pre-recorded
Yeah.
had to do.
Mhm.
And I remember thinking to myself, like, dude, this is insane. Like, cause
Yeah.
I never really hear myself because I'm on air.
Right.
That day, I so happened to catch myself, and I just thought to myself, like, man, Les, you did it. Like, you really did it. You know? 'Cause, I mean, I
Yeah.
grew up listening to radio.
Right.
That was the only thing I wanted to do. I just remember waking up, listening to the countdowns on the weekends. For some reason, the weekend countdowns were just so exciting to me.
Yeah.
To hear like what was new, what was popping,
Right.
you know, like unknown facts of the different artists, and just it was just something that I've always dreamed of. So
Right. And same. I agree with that 1000%. Are you still in love with DJing? Does it still give you that feeling?
it does. And you know what's funny? It's funny you asked that, because in this pandemic, you know, obviously gigs are not happening anymore out in
Right.
the public, out in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, a lot of us DJs were forced to get creative and really figure out, you know, the next steps, and how to still have fun, and how to still work and make money in this really crazy time that we're in. So a lot of DJs are now live streaming their sets.
Yep.
And because of that, I feel like we're able to play music that we've never really been able to tap into. Because think about it, DJing in a club, most of the time people want to turn up, you know, they want to hear everything that's hype, everything that's live. But now we're DJing for people that are at home, chilling, relaxing, you know, trying to take their mind off what's happening. So I know for me personally, like I was forced to dig into my crates that I hadn't really like been into for a while. So that's been a plus.
And there's also this industry attached to it, right? It's not just like I get to DJ, but you also have to make money doing it. Are you still in love with the industry, or are you not a fan of the industry that you have to be a part of to be a DJ?
No, you know what? I don't mind the industry. I think like in any industry, you're gonna have your pros and your cons, you know, and I think that as long as you remember like why you started, it all will just work itself out, you know, and make it worth it, like having to deal with, you know, the BS, or maybe things being a little bit harder, or just, you know, in the end, I think that like it's all learning. And when you learn, you grow. And at the end of the day, that's the purpose, right?
Yeah. What would you say would have been, you know, the hardest thing for you coming up?
Oof, the hardest thing for me, believe it or not, I tend to be really shy.
Yeah, I know. Yep, you do. I know that.
It was really hard to get out of my own head sometimes, and like really just let my inner self, like who I am, loose. And that was always so hard for me. But working in radio really helped me come out of my shell. And it was one of those things where you sink or you swim. So when I got the opportunity, like, girl, you don't like talking on the mic? Well, too bad.
Yep. I remember that. No, and I have always been so proud of you for, I mean, because people, you know, think of radio as in like, oh, if you hit, you know, a certain age, then there's no point in doing it or something like that. And you have been hustling after you've been a successful DJ. Then you were like, well, now I'm going to be a radio personality. And that was, you know, has been the past like 5 years of your life, which has just been mind blowing to me to have that. Like, what keeps you motivated in keeping moving forward in that sense?
That's a good question. I'm so happy you asked that, because in this pandemic, it's been so hard for me to find that motivation, or like, okay, so here I am, I'm a DJ on, you know, Real 92.3, which is like my home, a radio station in my hometown, Los Angeles. You know, I'm working, one of the best slots that you could think of, which is afternoon drive 2 to 7 with, the #1 hip hop station in LA.
Yeah.
And in the pandemic, I feel like, oh man, it was a little bit difficult to find motivation. But now that we're kind of getting out of that hump, I've realized that like I haven't even scratched the surface of like what I'm going to do. And, I want to be, this is so hard, Brooke. You put me on the spot because I want to do so many things.
Yeah.
I want to do so many things. But motivation, what's been my motivation? That's such a hard question right now.
I know, I get it. And that's kind of why I wanted to ask you that, because I think a lot of people in and outside of the industry are struggling with that. Just what are we doing it for? Also the companies that we're a part of, did they handle things correctly? Or, are we kind of like going in the right direction? Or, should we start over? Should we do X, Y, and Z? And I think a lot of people, especially in the media industry, or people who, are even young, I think about the, college students who just graduated, who have no prospects for any kind of jobs, especially within the media industry, because they're all letting people go, like how are people going to start, in industry now? So going off of that, as a DJ, would you even say there's a point in starting right now, which obviously, I mean, there's always going to be a point in practicing and like maybe getting equipment and stuff like that. But, is this the right time to even get into it?
I think so. I mean, I think like obviously a lot of the big companies and big corporations are not hiring at the moment, but you have the internet. Like everything we need is right here. So I think, what you're doing is great. I think this podcast,
thank you.
YouTube channel is you're staying busy. You can sit and feel bad for yourself and let yourself get into a dark hole, or you can work hard and say, you know what, like even though things aren't really working out for me right now, I'm not going to give up. And I remembered the motivation that keeps me going is remembering why I started in the first place. This has been my dream since I was a little girl, and I'm here and times are tough, and it's not just for me, for everyone, so I just have to, I think we have to just stick with it and remember it's temporary. Where we are now in life, what's happening in the world is temporary. It's going to pass.
So do you encounter a lot of criticism or judgment doing what you do? Just for being, I don't know, Latina, being a Latina DJ, being a female DJ, but, anything like that. What's the biggest thing that you would probably say you get hate for?
Hate for? I mean, I don't really think I get too much hate. And if I do, I don't really look into it, to be honest. I don't really pay attention to it. I kind of just block it out. I think
nice.
I know is like, I'm not always going to be everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay, and the world's going to go on for me and for whoever is not a fan of me. And I'm not a fan of everyone, and it is what it is, but I think like for me, one thing is like, being a girl really was difficult in the beginning, and it still kind of is sometimes. I think that we have to remember, like, there's no difference between a man and a woman. I mean, I'm sure there's lots of differences, but we can all get this job done the same way. So I really, like, that really, really bugs me, but I think women are coming so far, we're accomplishing so much. Our president is a female, woman of color, and that just goes to show who cares about all that stuff, dude.
Yeah. And I want to take a moment to say that you inspire the shit out of me. And I think a lot of other women in the industry, there aren't many. It's really weird because it's still, in the year 2021, there are some, and there are some that are successful. And then we look at somebody like Angie Martinez and, even Yessie Ortiz and everything like that. And then we have people like you who, are kind of newer, and it just makes us all feel like there's still something to be done and there's still success to be had and everything. Because for a while there was just not a lot of, females coming up in that respect. Who would you say, well, what would you say to young DJs, young women and everything who are coming up, who might not see someone that looks like them in this industry?
I would say who cares? Don't
block it out.
Block them out.
Yeah.
There's people that don't like you because of how you look, where you come from, how you speak, how you dress. It doesn't matter. Be you. Be your authentic self. Because if you put energy into those, those few people that aren't a fan of you, you're missing putting that positive energy into the people that do you know, are inspired by you and that look up to you. And it's funny that you say that, because now that I think back, when I first got into radio, I felt like I didn't really have a lot of support from a lot of like people that I grew up with, you know, in my area. And I just thought to myself, like, why? I didn't understand, you know, because I feel like I've always kind of been in my lane. You know, I don't really bother anybody. I kind of just keep to myself. But, you know, I think when something's new and something is, you know, not something that you're familiar with, it's hard to understand it and hard to see it for what it is. So, you know, that being said, I've always just kind of stayed to myself. And
yeah. I mean, why do you think you weren't getting that support? Was it shocking whenever you were like, wait, what? You know, these people that I looked up to aren't looking at me the same way. How did that feel for you?
Yeah, it was shocking because I didn't expect it, you know, but it was my first time really tapping in to the industry, you know, so I didn't expect it, but I also was like, you know what, it is what it is. That just means I have to work hard and just keep showing, you know, the world that I can do this and that I love this and that, you know, I'm passionate about it. So
yeah, I do want to ask you about basically how you make a living as a DJ, because I feel like a lot of people want to be in the media industry but don't necessarily know how to support themselves being in the media industry. And since you can't do clubs anymore, which is how a lot of DJs would make their money, you know, how have you supplemented that? You know, how do people make money as a DJ?
Okay, so in these times, you know, pandemic, online streaming really saved my life and a lot of my DJ friends.
Wow.
You know, we've had to definitely invest in equipment, you know, lighting, cameras. I bought a PC because streaming, I found out, is easier on a PC. I didn't know that. So definitely been an investment, but it's been a good one, you know, and I feel like I've grown a different fan base through streaming, you know. So I mean, and I stream on Twitch, which the DJ community on there has grown. Twitch is definitely the way to go. This is the perfect time to pick up DJing. It's a perfect time to pick up broadcasting. Everyone's home. Listen, we and you are interviewing on Zoom right now. It's going to live on the internet. And it's, you know, why not? Don't let a pandemic stop you from growing, you know, and anything. I think this is the time where we like get more creative and figure things out. Like, I launched my merch in the pandemic. It's something that I've been thinking about doing for years. And I figured out how to do it all on my own. I mean, sure, I had some friends that helped me, but as far as like the shipping, you know, the packaging, like I do that all myself. So I had to learn that, you know, and I think whatever you want to do, don't let a pandemic stop you.
True.
Please.
Well, one of the most successful female DJs I know, and definitely in the country, is 1000% you. But tell everybody where they can find you, you know, Twitch, Instagram, wherever.
You can find me at DJ LEZLEE, LEZLEE, on all social media. Can't wait for you to come to LA.
I can't wait to come back. I'm so excited. But no, thank you so much, LEZLEE. Have yourself a wonderful day, okay?
Love you. Bye.
Bye.